Greetings and welcome to the Bowling Green First United Methodist Church. We hope that you enjoy what you're about to see, and you can find us on the corner of Broadway and Church Streets at 11 o'clock on Sunday mornings. Or you can find us at bgmethodist.org and on Facebook at Bowling Green First United Methodist Church. So last week we started talking about Habakkuk, and in case you need a refresher, that's 1B and 3 Ks. Because it only took me about 3 years and 4 whatever. I can't figure out how to do that. But remember, we're talking about Habakkuk. Habakkuk was writing in the southern nation of Judah. That was back when Israel split between north and south. In that split, the north kept the name Israel, the south became Judah. And by the time Habakkuk is writing, the northern kingdom has already been conquered and it's disappeared, and you're left with that southern kingdom of Judah. And they're watching as everything is getting really scary around them and at home, and they are worried and they don't know what to do, and they're trying to figure this out. And Habakkuk is writing to God and saying, God, what do we do? Here's all the crazy things that are going on around us. And we need to know, how do we get through this? And one of the first things we saw was that God tells Habakkuk to persevere. First he says it's not going to get any easier. But says, persevere because you can make this through. And we're talking about Habakkuk because haven't we all been in that place? Been in that same situation where we look around us and we say, life is hard. We don't know what to do. And so we begin wondering, what is the next thing that we do? What do we do to make it through these hard times? We talked about how, looking up here down that canyon, it can be a good thing or a bad thing or both. It can be a sign of something great you have just done because you've made it to the top there, or it can be a sign of now you know that you've got to go down into that hard place and try and come out on the other side. This morning we're going to talk more about what is that next step we do. But first I want you to listen to a little bit of a story. And listen for two things. The first thing I want you to listen to is how the main character tries to deny what's going on around her. And the second thing I want you to listen for is that moment when you can tell she's come up over the edge and now has gone down into the dip, into that hard place. So listen for that this morning.
Gail Foreman is best known for her best-selling young adult book, If I Stay. It centers around Mia, a young woman whose entire family is killed in a car crash. But from If I Stay and YA, Gail has now moved to an adult book titled Leave Me. Her heroine now, Mary Beth Klein, an overcommitted 44-year-old mother of twins, barely balancing family and job with her husband Jason, who also depends on her. Mary Beth doesn't feel well, but she's got to get to her accountant's office with those late tax returns. And she really doesn't feel well, but how can she go to the doctor? The school firmly tells her there is no aftercare, you have to get the kids. She finally gets to the hospital where the doctor's trying to tell her what? She needs surgery or something? But as she explains, she has too much to do.
In the coming days, someone had to get the kids to their ballet classes, their soccer clinics, their speech therapy sessions, their playdates, their birthday parties, to take them shopping for their Halloween costumes, to the pediatrician for their flu shots, to the dentist for their cleanings. Someone had to plan the meals, pay the bills, balance the checkbook. Someone had to get it all done, while still getting all the work done. Mary Beth sighed. It's just I have a house full of 4-year-olds and a very busy weekend. He stared at her for a long moment, frowning. Mary Beth looked back, disliking him already, and that was before he said, "You do realize you've had a heart attack."
Now, did you hear those moments in there? And the guy giving the news at the end was her doctor, and did you hear how she was trying to already deny that there's a problem here, trying to deny that she's come up over that edge and is getting ready to go down into this hard place. Do you hear what she said? She decided she didn't like him already. It's one of those ways that we use to try and hide from reality. But you can tell when she knew now she was over that edge when the doctor said those words to her. Now, this story it's from a fictional book, but it's based on a real life account. So it's an extreme example to be sure, but it's one that has happened. When we find ourselves and we think, we're doing great, we've made it up the hard side of this. We made it up to the hard part, we're doing good, we're keeping all those balls in the air juggling around, and we are good. good, and we've made it, and we may even do a little happy dance when we get to the top of there. But what happens when we go back down that other side? Because that's where we begin to have the trouble. When all of a sudden things can't get there, where for the woman of the story, that was the moment where she realized that she was in one of those hard places, where she was in the middle of that dip, down that low place where it is the hardest, and she has to now persevere to get through to the other side. But how do you do that? How do you persevere? How do you make it through that hard place before you start back up on the other side? Now, what we learned from Habakkuk last week as he was raising his complaint to God and saying to God, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? His response is, God's response to Habakkuk was, put your strength and your faith in me. Because that's where we run into trouble. Because we run into trouble by the time we realize that we are down in the middle of that dip, we have already been there for a while. By the time the doctor says you do realize you've had a heart attack, we've probably already been there for a while. It's already happened. We're already there. And that's what happens when we put our strength in ourselves and in our own person, is that we're going to be behind all the time. Because we aren't going to know where we are until it comes up and almost hits us in the face and says, I'm here. And at that point, we'll already have been there. But God goes with us and says that I am already there with you to help you put your strength and your faith in me and not in yourself. Remember, as God was responding to Habakkuk's complaint last week, Habakkuk laid out all these complaints. If you want to go back at some point and read the first few verses of chapter 1, and Habakkuk gives God his complaint, and then God responds to him and says, well, you know, Habakkuk, things aren't going to get any easier for a while. We'd like to know that everything's going to be easy after we go to God with that, but we all know what reality is really like, is that it's not always easier, but God does say, I will be there with you when you go through that. Because God tells Habakkuk, says, you and your tiny little nation of Judah, you're going to be in trouble. You've got some folks that are coming after you, and we can call them the Chaldeans or the Babylonians, or just call them the enemies. And at one point in verse 11, God responds to Habakkuk, and he says this. He says to him, he, talking about the enemies, passes through like the wind and invades, but he will be held guilty, the one whose strength is his God. God is telling Habakkuk, here is your enemy's weakness. You're still going to have to deal with a lot, but they are going to fail because they put their faith and their strength in themselves and in their own power and their own abilities, and that is going to be their downfall. In the process, telling Habakkuk, don't be like them. Don't do that. That's not where you put that, but do something different. Be different from them. Now, that's not the message we like to hear, though. That wasn't the message that Habakkuk wanted to hear either, because Habakkuk then responds after that, and he is not liking any of this. He kind of almost goes off the rail a little bit as he comes up and he is responding to God. And this is where, when we read Scripture, we have to remember sometimes that there are real people involved in these stories, because we have this tendency at times to make folks a little bit holier or more righteous or more pious than they really are, because we're reading about them in the Bible, and I don't necessarily relate to those folks very well. Because we can read verse 1 of chapter 2 in a couple of different ways. We can read it in a way that says, I will take my post, I will position myself on the fortress, I will keep watch to see what the Lord says to me and how he will respond to my complaint. I don't relate to that guy very well. That's not me. Especially if I'm in the middle of one of these places where it's really hard. That's generally not how I respond. I might respond more in a different way. I will take my post. I will position myself at the fortress. I will keep watch to see what the Lord says to me and how he will respond to my complaint. So there. You all ever heard kids do that before? If you've had kids or been around kids, you know that's what happens, right? They don't get something they want, and they get that kind of that sound about it, that look about it, and then after that they want to go back and slam the door to their bedroom. I tried that when I was a kid. We had those hollow core doors. Those things don't slam. We can try, but you can barely pull up a good gust of wind off of things, much less anything else. But that's what we do, isn't it? When we are faced with something we don't want to see, and we're told that, maybe it's not going to get you better for a while, but you got to go. We don't respond with righteousness and piety. We might, on occasion. Most of the time, though, don't we respond with, well, why not? Why am I not going to get my way? That's what Habakkuk is saying. That's why I relate more to that Habakkuk than I do the other one, because that was more like my response. That, why? This isn't right. I wanted this to be done and fixed now. But then Habakkuk begins to come through it. Because that's the thing. Habakkuk then begins to come through this to the other side. Because he begins to remember who God is. He begins to remember who it was that told him that here is your enemy's weakness. They're going to put all their faith in themselves. Put your faith instead in me. And in Habakkuk, you begin to see this transition take place in chapter 2 until we get to, he begins reminding not just himself, but now he's also talking to the people of Judah and saying to them, remember who this God is. And he gets to verse 20 and he says this, but the Lord is in his holy temple. Let all the earth be silent before him. Now this is the very nice and very biblical way of saying, shut up and listen. Just listen to me for once. But that's not good advice that God gives. God gives us over and over and over to the Old Testament, to the New Testament, and we can go back even to, not all that far, back to Elijah. Elijah, who, as the story goes, had been one of the greatest, craziest, oddest, strangest, most wonderful miracles in the Old Testament, which is saying something at that point. And defeats a whole bunch of others just by himself. But Queen Jezebel wasn't there. She finds out what happened. She gets really mad and she scares the bejeebers out of Elijah until Elijah takes off and starts running. And he starts running and running and running to try and get away until at one point God basically says, you aren't running anymore, I'm leading you someplace. And Elijah goes, no, you're missing the purpose of this, God. I'm running. I'm not being led anywhere. I'm trying to get away. But God says, no, come up here to this mountain. Takes him up to the mountain and big things come by Elijah and they get his attention. So then when that still small voice speaks to him, he is ready to hear and to listen to what God is saying. And Elijah receives what he needs so he can go back and he can continue the work that he's been doing. When we look to Peter, I made a really bad pun of the Olia this morning and I said I wouldn't do that one again, so I'm not going to make you suffer through that. But Peter is the one who likes to put his foot in his mouth on a regular basis. Peter is the one who is going to say what's on everyone else's mind, even if they're too polite to say it. Because Peter is the one who, when Jesus was teaching and he was telling folks about what the Son of Man must go through, Peter's like, Jesus, come over here for a second. He looks at Jesus and he says, you don't tell people these things. You don't tell people all these things about the Son of Man that he must suffer through. We don't do that around here. That's when Jesus says to Peter that line that we've heard many times, get behind me, Satan. Kind of gets Peter's attention after that. And Peter hears what Jesus says, and more importantly, the other disciples around here, because they were all thinking the same thing. They were thinking the same thing, Peter. Peter just was the one who was going to say it and was going to put it out there. Because then Jesus follows it up when he's got their attention and they're listening and tells them and explains to them, this is what must happen to the Son of Man. He takes everything that they thought they knew about who the Messiah was going to be, lifts it up, kind of upends it, and sets it back down in a new way that they then had to figure out that they were finally, again, ready to listen, at least at that point. It took them a while still to process through that, but they heard it and they listened. And then you got Paul, who was on the road to Damascus, and Jesus speaks to him in a bright light and a voice, and just kind of completely changes Paul's world after that. And now Paul is finally ready to listen to what God is saying. But we don't even have to just leave it at the Bible. We can go back into our own history. We can look at our founder of Methodism, John Wesley, who did the same thing. He spent all of his life trying to do all of the right things. That's part of how we got our name as Methodist, was he was always trying to do the right thing. It wasn't until He runs out of Georgia, just a few steps ahead of folks who are trying to track him down and arrest him. He gets back to England. He sees himself as being a huge failure. Then he finds himself at Aldersgate, hearing those words that are so very famous for putting people to sleep in Martin Luther's introduction to the book of Romans. But he was ready now to listen and to hear, and his ministry was changed after that because he did something new and something different. And he became the one who transformed what church looked like in England at that time. And not just that, but he became one of the most influential and one of the most important thought leaders of England in that time. Because now he was hearing God. He was listening in a way that he hadn't ever listened before. But these are the ways that they were listening and hearing and going out from there. So the question becomes, why is it that we need to listen? We need to listen because that's a hard place to be in. When we get to that place and we know that we're coming down through that dip. The woman who had the heart attack, she was doing so much that she couldn't hear anything anymore. She tried to make sure she had all of her things lined out and was doing all of the things, but she couldn't hear. And then something happens, and now she's got to go through it. And as the rest of the story goes, I haven't read the book, I just listened to the interview with the author. And talking about, the rest of the book is about her journey and trying to understand what the next step is and how to process through that and make it through that hard place in the middle of there. But she didn't want to do that, because if she really listened and she did that, she's going to have to become different. But yet that was exactly what she needed to do. In preparation for this series, I reread a book that I read many years ago called The Dip, which is where kind of the title for all this comes from. It's by a guy named Seth Godin. And he talks about how there's the most successful people around, they do one of two things very well. They either hold on to a really good idea past the point where everyone else gives up, and then when they come out on the other side, they're incredibly successful, and they're good, and they have done something no one else has. Or they quit at just the right time and start something new. The trick is to figure out where you make that decision. Because that's what Elijah did. Elijah didn't need to quit. He just needed to hold on just a little bit longer until he could come out on the other side and find that next place he was supposed to be. But Peter and the disciples, they had to quit a whole bunch of things they thought that they knew so that they could know that things were different, but they did, and look what happens next. It's hard for a lot of folks to do that. It's hard to make that choice and make that decision, but we have something different. Because we have a God that goes through that dip with us, and helps us, if we're willing to listen, to take that next step. So that we can go from there and start making our way back up on that other side. Our God goes with us and helps us, if we listen to what He says, to know, do we quit or do we keep on? Or do we do something else? So what is it that we need to do next so that we can come to that other side and we can hear God? Because then at that point, we aren't putting our faith and our strength in ourselves, but we're putting it in God, and we're hearing His voice. And as Grace said earlier, sometimes it may take 7 years in order for us to hear. But sometimes that's what it takes so that we can begin to make our way through the other side. Now, this isn't going to be an easy thing, though. I think last week when we started this, I told you then that God's not going to give Habakkuk any easy answers to this. And He doesn't. But that's more like the world that we're a part of. And then very rarely are there easy answers that gets us through anything. But rather God says, here's where you put your strength. Listen to my voice as you go through it. And we'll be able to come out the other side. Next week we'll look and we'll hear and we'll see some different ways we can make that transition and what we do, what's the next step in that process. But for this morning, what we can take from here is just that need to listen. Not just for us, but for a world around us that is hurting and struggling on its own and needs to hear that voice. We can tell folks and we can say, when you come to that hard place where you're unsure of what to go, here's who you need to turn to so you can hear, how do I get out of this? Or what is my next step I need to take so I can begin this journey out of this hard place I'm in? That's the message we can take and we can share with folks all around. Let us do that in Christ's name.